Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, joined by some familiar faces, but never in the same place. We've got Mr. John Miller straight in from the swamp. Congratulations on surviving and getting here alive. Yes, good job, good work. We've got Graham Allen.
I'm in a new chair today.
You are?
I am. This is a weird angle. It's like a whole different place.
You have to look at me head on. I'm very sorry about that. We've got Mr. Chad Prather.
Who? What? This is my chair now.
The guy with the cowboy hat. The guy with the
That's
cowboy
what it
hat.
is. Yeah,
It's nice and warm.
You stole my chair from me.
My butt.
I'm a little bit nervous about these two sitting right next to each other. I might have to, as the teacher, come and sit in between you two.
Graham and I have traveled all over the country together.
We have been around each other way too much. That is very true.
Too many of the same hotel rooms.
On to today's top stories. John, what is your top story going to be?
So I want to talk about George Conway, Kellyanne Conway's husband, once again coming out and saying the president's stupidity knows no bounds. I just want to know what that household is like. Like when they get home, what is that relationship like? It can't be good.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into that. Graham, what's your top
I want to talk about California again proving that it just needs to be taken out of the United States. Now another university saying that the Pledge of Allegiance needs to be gone because it represents white nationalism.
Obviously.
That's what I've been trying to say.
All this time. Finally, someone said it. All right, Chad.
2020 presidential far leftist hopeful Kamala Harris has now made everybody scratch their heads as she says that all private insurance should be abolished.
All right, so it's going to be an interesting show. But first, we want to thank our sponsor, Cosmo Hurts Kids. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Cosmopolitan magazine is quite risque these days.
I don't read it.
Okay, but I'm not saying I read it, John. Okay, I'm saying when I go to the checkout stand, when I go to the checkout stand and I'm looking at all of the magazines and their headlines, and I'm like, the what sex? I mean, it's got some real things that we don't want our children reading. So the Hearst Corporation the Hearst family owns Cosmopolitan magazine. Victoria Hearst, a member of the family, has actually gone out on her own campaign and said, you know what? I don't want to censor their free speech, but I think that this magazine is harmful to children and it should be labeled as so. It should fall under the category of, it states that it's harmful to minors under 18. That's all that she's asking for. Personally, I agree. My son is starting to read. I don't want him reading that garbage.
Like put it in the wrapper or something like they did the Playboy magazines?
Yeah, and not have it just right there in front of your children as you're checking out with your orange juice and donuts.
Yeah.
Kinds of tips and tricks that you can use and things that they don't know about.
Yeah.
That's why my daughters only read Teen Vogue. Yeah. We keep it clean around my house.
So if you want to hear more about this campaign, which I think you should, it's a really big issue right now. The morals of society and how we protect our children. You can go to CosmoHurtsKids.com to learn more. All right, John, I would imagine that is a very, very awkward household.
Interesting household. Well, it was interesting because it was actually in response to Cliff Sims, who was an old White House staffer, left the White House. He has a new tell-all book out. And in the book actually accuses Kellyanne Conway of being the big leaker in the White House. So Trump bashed the book on Twitter, sent a tweet out saying this book is boring, full of lies, and then
bash something on Twitter.
I know it's
Trump
huge.
sent
Trump
a bathroom tweet about a book.
What? That's the news story right there.
Trump read a book.
So the interesting part is that he bashed on Twitter, and then Conway came out, husband Conway, Mr. Conway came out and said, "Trump, you're stupid." So the book that is accusing Kellyanne of leaking, Trump calling that book stupid. George Conway saying, "Trump, you're stupid," in response. So what is going on in that household? Let
me tell you, my wife works in a medical clinic. She's a nurse practitioner. If all of a sudden I started going online and bashing all of the doctors and the nurse practitioners and the PAs that worked in her clinic that she loves very much and that she supported, my wife would cut my throat.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it works either.
I don't know. I'm really curious to find out how it works and how long they'll be together for.
I mean, do you think at this point, because they have children, right? So maybe I feel like it's either stay together for the kids, or we just have to get through this point in our lives with, the however long Trump is in office, and then we will quietly divorce behind the scenes.
Like, wouldn't a healthy relationship, you would think maybe he's like, "Honey, can I send out this tweet? Are you going to be pissed at me?"
Right.
He's just doing it, which is just like.
Or how about like, "Honey, we'll talk about this
exactly.
instead of on the internet."
Sometimes you got to throw it out there and see what happens. I mean, yeah.
This is the epitome Georgia Kellyanne Conway, which, with all due respect to Kellyanne Conway, I mean, obviously she's got some pretty thick skin to do what she's done and say the thing. I mean, I have to give a lot of admiration to Kellyanne Conway, but this is what I would call the epitome of a swamp marriage. This is so. Imagine with me if Donald Trump had never been elected, all the things you wouldn't know or realize about one, the media, or Hollywood, or the Washington, D.C. elite and the way these people interact with each other. If anything, the Trump presidency is exposed how crazy and what level of twilight zone we're living in.
Yeah, no, it was very smart on his part. I think he knew from day one. I think this is his exposure of what goes on in the media, putting everything out on the table. I think he knew the day he decided he was going to be president. I think he knew he was going to win, and he knew, I'm going to do something no other president has done, and I'm going to take the fight straight to them and expose them for the liars and cheats and phonies. And
that right there is why the mainstream media, Hollywood, you name it, anyone with a platform, that pantheon of people that sit around with public voices, they will not stop, because they know that as long as Trump is in power and has any place with a voice, he's going to continue to expose that.
Every other president we've ever had, they would have meetings go, Mr. President, you can't say it like this. Yeah. Mr. President, you can't do that, because if you do this, the media is going to tear you apart. Trump goes, I don't care. Why do you have a job? Why are we paying you? I don't need your advice.
Well, John, look at how many tell-all books are coming out now with the people who worked in the Trump White House, and it's because of that very thing.
Yep. Yeah. And you read them, and a lot of times you're like, yeah, that kind of sounds about right. That's what we get with him. I mean, it's not. Some of it's believable, but then other parts are just outright lies. And you have to wonder why they're doing it, and it's because he's completely dismantling everything that town of Washington has accepted as reality. And, you said it completely epitomized as a swamp marriage. That's absolutely true. In Washington, you talk about these people on there, you badmouth them, and then you go to the bar after. And for most Americans, it's the most disgusting, awkward thing ever. But that's how that town thrives.
That's what you bring up an interesting point, because during the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings, things got so heated, and Lindsey Graham gave his Lindsey Graham 2.0 speech, and everyone loved him in that moment. And he made a comment about, these are my friends. And I was like, I'm not sure if you guys are friends after this.
But it's fascinating, because in the press briefings, even the conservative outlets in the White House press corps, they'll be like, Jim Acosta, he's not that bad. He's just trying to do his job, because they all have to stick up for one another.
No, he's terrible.
And so I'm like, he's a terrible hack. I hate him. Yeah. And then I go to the press briefing the next day, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of awkward. But that's just, but that's why you get all these same terrible stories. That's why you have, even on the conservative side, because at the end of the day, in that town, everyone has to be friends.
Our friend WWE's The Undertaker. Graham and I are good friends with The Undertaker. Undertaker, I was with him last week, and he was telling me about when he got both of his occipital bones broken and his eyes caved in, and he had to have the surgery to reconstruct his face. And he said, yeah, I was wrestling my buddy. That's the way it is. That's the way you feel like in Hollywood. It's these wrestlers that go at each other. It's a cage match, and then now they're at happy hour on Capitol Hill.
Yeah. I mean, so I have to.
I don't think George and Kellyanne are going to happy hour.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, so what is his motivation? What is George's motivation at this point?
That's a great question. I think it looks like he's just there to embarrass his wife, which is why it can't be a good thing.
No one knows. Like most of the things that happen on Capitol Hill, nobody knows. Yep.
I would love to be a fly on the wall at that household right about now. All I know is happy wife, happy life. I think George maybe could use that advice right now. All right, Graham. So California just needs to be sawed off.
I don't know if you know this, but America is racist. And
well, I mean, I already knew that.
The only reason that John is here is because we white people allowed him to be so.
Thank you.
I don't know if you know that. So Santa Barbara City College Board of Trustees President Robert Miller basically said we don't need the Pledge of Allegiance anymore because it is riddled with undertones of white nationalism, basically saying that the guy who wrote it, Francis Bellamy, wrote the pledge in 1890 when he was concerned with the influx of immigrants. So that's what this is really about. Yet another attack on basic principles of being an American. How hard is it to pledge your allegiance to the very country that's the only reason that you're allowed to have such an asinine conversation of should we pledge allegiance to our country in the first place? The paradox of stupid in that entire argument is just, it's incredible. I mean, we kneel for the anthem. God is offensive. Boys and girls can literally be whatever they want now, and now the Pledge of Allegiance.
You say otherwise, you bigot.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just say we kneel for the anthem, but don't you kneel in the end zone if it's to pray.
No.
Yep.
Don't kneel then.
Exactly. It's just another attack.
Isn't there something in the Pledge of Allegiance that's something about indivisible?
Yeah.
I think that they're
one
missing that point.
nation
Yeah,
under
one nation
God.
under God, indivisible.
Yeah, that whole line in there. Wow, that sounds awful. Oppressive to me in that thing. So I don't know. I think it's just I think this 100% has to do with more just immigration sympathy right now. Right. I don't think this guy could give a teetotal.
Come on and say it, Graham. Come on.
No,
Say it.
I'm not going to say it. Get me
Not on my show, please.
But this guy could probably care less. This is just another way to get in the tabloids, have some exposure for your mediocre college that nobody really cares about in the first place. How can we do this? We'll have immigration sympathy, and we'll talk about the fact that we can't do this because they hated immigrants too.
Wait, I'm a little slow, but I'm still not seeing the connection between the immigrant, the whole thing.
Well, that's because you're also racist.
I've read it multiple. Oh, you're not a real black person, John.
Right, there you go. I'm not. You have to keep reminding me.
That's what everyone tells us all the time. You are not real. You don't exist.
Well, you do bring up, an interesting point about everyone being immigration sympathizers right now, which, by the way, no one at this table, I think, no one here would say we don't like immigrants. We all can recognize we are a nation of immigrants. Yeah. Legal immigration is awesome. Yeah. We love it, legal immigration. It's the illegal immigration, just that key word there, illegal, that's a problem. And to this story, Tom Brokaw, I believe it was in hot water just recently for his comments on saying, he said that Hispanics should be trying to assimilate, should be trying to learn
Can I just ask,
English.
what is wrong with that? That is the point. You come to the country, you learn our laws, you learn love for our Constitution.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what immigration is. And to say that Hispanics need to do more of that because they're not, and they're teaching Spanish in schools, and especially in California, they are all these measures to make it so you don't have to speak English. And that's the exact opposite of how people should immigrate to the country.
I did a video posted a video on social media this morning where I did a spoof of pretending to be Jim Acosta down at the border, touching the thing, and then we had people cross. It's pretty funny. So it's going viral today, and so I encourage people to go see it.
It's not a terrible video. It's really good.
It's really good. So here's the thing. I had someone who commented on there, and they said, because I do a 30-second summary at the end of my, like, typical video of me in the truck, and I'm sitting there, and I said, I don't know a conservative that is opposed to, or a pro-American person who believes in liberty that's opposed to legal immigration. We encourage it. We want it. We want you here. If I lived in one of these countries, I'd try to get my family up here. That's what I'd want to do. And I made the comment, I said, but what we don't want is people who come here illegally and undermine the foundation and the structure of our country, what we're built on. And I had someone who commented on there, and they said, why can't people bring their culture here? What do you have a problem with their culture? I said, nowhere in that video did I say anything about their culture. I respect their culture. They said, well, then what are you talking about the foundation of our country? I said, it's very simple. The Constitution. The Constitution of the United States of America. If you come in, you adhere to it, you believe in it, and you abide by it. You abide by our traditions. You abide by a pledge of allegiance to the flag that says you are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You abide by a declaration that says we're independent. Look, you want to come in here and you want to abide by those things? I will throw my arms open for you.
There's also something to be said too about, okay, why do they want to come here? Because they want to participate in the American dream. How are you supposed to participate in the American dream if you can't speak the language? And
you're not allowed to say that. But it's like if where you're coming from is so amazing and so great, then why are you coming here?
Right.
There's a reason why you're trying to come here, and it's because of everything that we've worked to preserve in this country.
That's almost like common sense, John.
It should be common sense, but it's not.
Stop it.
You are a racist as well.
But people's main argument to me all the time is, how can you be against illegal immigration when we, in fact, ourselves are illegal immigrants? And my response to that is, first of all, there were no laws back then. This wasn't an established country. And I myself, in the present, did not illegally cross into a country that had laws in place. So it's an irrational argument that people use. We came over here and we stole it, the country, Christopher Columbus, however you want to do it. But now, right now, in 2019, this is the United States of America. The United States of America has laws in place on how to become a citizen legally. And that's how the argument should be.
I hate that really good people in California get such a bad rap because of the idiots.
That's a great point. There's like two of them left, right?
Yeah, all two of them are George and Sherry are really good folks.
You guys are great people.
George and
we
Sherry.
really love them.
George
and Sherry.
George and Sherry are really
Let's
good.
wait to get into Kamala.
Kamala.
Back in a minute.
Kamala.
All right, we just did the most awesome magic trick of all time. Although, love John Miller, he was awesome. He had to run, though. He was in the middle of something. And we are now joined by Mr. Eric Bowling.
Hey!
Yay! Thank you for being
He said
here.
he had to go to the men's room.
Yeah.
Did he?
That's what it was.
I think he was offended.
I think he was too.
He probably was.
I missed it.
The article says that America's racist, and then he left.
The Pledge of Allegiance is racist and all
Yeah,
that.
Pledge of Allegiance was racist.
White nationalist.
Yeah,
Yes.
white nationalist Pledge of Allegiance.
Where, white, you wouldn't know because it's white privilege.
From California. So.
All right, but before we get into Kamala Harris.
Kamala.
I'm just going to call you Kamala.
Yeah.
We are going to thank our sponsor, Riduzone. So, It's still January, right? Yeah, it's still January. And perhaps some of us had some New Year's resolutions to lose a couple pounds, maybe, that we gained the following year. Don't be embarrassed. I was also you. I lost 100 pounds about 11 years ago or so. And so I know the struggle personally. Yes, there's me. That's me, the giant number 10. And so I know. You lose weight, and then you go on these yo-yo diets, and then you gain the weight back, and you can't find anything to just help support you losing weight and maintaining. Might I suggest that you try Riduzone? The folks at Riduzone have this little capsule that's full of the good molecule in olive oil, and it helps you boost your metabolism, and it helps reduce your appetite, so you feel full longer. You're not constantly craving the things that you should not be eating. I use it. I swear by it. It can work for you. Go to riduzone.com. That's RIDUZONE.com. You can get 30% off of a 3-month supply by using promo code THEBLAZE. We've done the math for you. It's like $1.39 a day. You can afford that much to invest in your health. Riduzone.com. All right, Eric, you missed quite a lively
I just want
first
can I
block.
comment that you used to be a number 10? And now you're the 1 of a 10, and sitting next to you makes us a 10 because I'm really round and you're really.
I was more offended by
you.
the team you were supporting in the photo than anything else.
Well, I married into Roll Tide.
Dogs. Anyway, hey, listen, I live in South Carolina. That would be Clemson territory. Bragging rights at this table. Yeah.
Okay, so, Chad, your top story is Kamala Harris. She said some pretty controversial things about private health insurance and Medicare for all. Did you catch that, Eric, by the way?
I did.
Okay, I think that we have that clip. Let's go ahead and play it if we can.
So just to follow up on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, to reiterate, you support the Medicare for All bill, I think initially co-sponsored by Senator Bernie Sanders. You're also a co-sponsor on it. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
Chad?
Yeah, let's eliminate filling out applications and buying things. You know, that's crazy. It's amazing to me whenever the Democrats these days are throwing their hat into the ring and they say they're going to run for president, that they have to start either with abolishing something or with an apology. Like, I used to believe in guns, but I was not empathetic enough on that, so now I apologize.
Now I see.
And so this is reminiscent of Barack Obama saying, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan if you like it. Now, the left realizes that being a Democrat isn't left enough. You got to go crazy left. So we have to abolish things. We got to get away from everything private, everything privatized. It doesn't matter if you can afford it or you like it. You don't need to go through all that. We're going to save you from the time and the energy of waiting on approval for a health insurance plan. And even if you can afford it, even if you like it, now, what's the point? You can't keep it.
Eric, 2008, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. 2019, nah, let's just eliminate it.
There's a big difference. So Kamala Harris wants to be president. So let's say she wins. Okay, so
like
now
this scenario.
I don't like this world.
no one does.
that
No
we're
one does.
doing
But
now.
just you always, I come from the business world. You always do the worst case example. What's worst that could possibly happen? Kamala Harris wins. It's a different Supreme Court now because of Donald Trump than it was in 2008 when you had John Roberts, who was frankly probably a liberal, making the final decision that Obamacare was in fact constitutional as long as you called it a fee and not a tax. I mean, it's just insanity the hoop he had to jump through to make Obamacare legal then. It will never happen again in our lifetime. That's the good news. I think what really is happening, though, is it's not that people need to go left. It's young people believe in socialism. They believe because millennials have never had a struggle. They've never had they've never had depression. They've never had really a major recession that lasted a year and a half. Right. So yes, we can borrow. Yes, we can tack on debt. Oh, don't worry, it'll be okay. They don't know history that there could be the mother of all downturns if we're $40 trillion in debt under her plan in 4 or 8 years. It could really literally sink the republic. Instead, right now, they go, it's never happened in my lifetime. So I think free stuff sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah. Which is the exact thing that they accuse President Trump of doing right now. They accuse Trump of, saying, well, I won't be around here when it comes back to bite me in the end. But that's what they base their entire campaigns on anyway, doing these plans, doing these actions, actually taking freedoms away from Americans. We're going to make this decision for you, and we're going to get it passed to where now you have no choice. Even if you want to go get private insurance, you can't do it because we've got Medicare for all. This is what you're going to do. Isn't that in and of itself the exact opposite of freedom?
Well, yeah, but I mean, the far left is not concerned with freedom. But, what's interesting to me also is that if they were to look at socialized healthcare in the UK or in Canada or, any place that it's been tried and true for a while there, you'll see that the people who really need care are forced to go to the private doctors and the private hospitals because they can't get quality care there. So it's just...
Except when a U.S. Senator named Rand Paul, palm to face, goes to Canada to have a procedure. Like, he's a friend of mine, too, by the way. Yeah. What do you think, kids? Stay here. We're in the middle of a major healthcare fight. Right. And it really listen, you need surgery, okay, but I mean, by the way, he's a doctor too. I'm sure he's a doctor. He's got good contacts right here in the United States.
Yeah. Do you know Philip Mountbatten, Prince Philip? He flipped his Range Rover, a couple of weeks ago, okay? He wrecked into a young lady, 46 years old, injured her arm, broke her wrist. She's upset because, one, the police haven't followed up properly. Yes, the Queen sent her warmest regards. But the biggest issue she has is she has not been treated properly by medical professionals because she can't get in to see anybody. Now, this is Britain, which supposedly has this type of health care, which, by the way, Kamala Harris's idea on health care goes further than even Britain, because if you have money in Britain, you can still get private health care. She wants to do away with all of that. So this idea that we have this pie in the sky, because you're right, Eric, I don't wake up every day, most young people don't wake up every day thinking, hey, we're $23 trillion in debt. I can still go to the mall. I can still buy new shoes. I can still, turn the heat on in my house.
My iPhone still works.
It still works. I'm still plugged into the Wi-Fi. They don't think about that. So hey, free means freedom, right? Well, I'm telling you, there's going to be consequences of that eventually.
Amen. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be back.
A prime example of how this isn't going to work. One of the things we have right now.
All right, before we go, I want to make sure to wish our very good friend Graham a happy birthday.
Oh.
We brought a little something here for you. Your wife told us that you really enjoy brownies.
Oh, my gosh.
And look, the candle stayed lit. So I'm not going to sing to you, but you can blow out the candle.
That's very well. Thank you guys very much.
Happy birthday. Thanks for being here on your birthday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Eric Balling is hosting tonight Blaze TV special Media Meltdown. You can tweet us, send it on Facebook, #BlazeTV Live.
Let's get that thing trending tonight, live, 2 hours.